Hey guys, this is Mara the Reading Hedgehog with kind of a special book video. It's a video about books. This is actually going to be one in the series of I'm not sure how many, discussing several different topics. Recently, I kind of became aware of, I guess back in September, there was this big hoopla on BookTube, about book collecting versus using libraries, and how BookTube is making us shallow, and why do people care about how books look anyway, and why don't people lend their books out to friends and people who want to read them, and a bunch of stuff like that. So I guess I'm kind of late on the ballgame because again, this seems to have happened back in September, and I was AWOL during that time. I was so busy I wasn't doing anything related to the book community. But I wanted to voice my opinion anyway, and I wanted to break this up into several videos, so I could be very concise with each point. I am going to be referencing a very specific video, which I will link below, and I want to let everyone who's seen that video, or if the girl who did it is watching this one, I want you to know that this is not a personal attack against you. I just am using your video because you put your points very clearly and very succinctly, and so it will be very easy to use it to give a layout for my own videos. So this is not a personal attack against you, this is not a personal attack against anyone who shares her opinion. I just want to voice my opinion because this is actually a reaction I get from a lot of people who are not book collectors, who just don't get the purpose behind book collecting and the book community in general, and so I just want to voice my own opinion, and you guys are free to agree or disagree, or what have you. So the first thing I'm going to address in this particular video is, why do I collect books? And more specifically, why do I buy new books, versus using my library to get them? And so yes, we're going to go into this. So I guess the best place to start is just kind of how I got into book collecting at all. Growing up, my family lived on a pretty moderate income. We weren't poor, but we were not at all rich either. It was pretty rare for us to get books, new or used or otherwise. We usually went to the library to get all of our books, and if we did get any new books, it was usually for like Christmas or birthday or special occasion, or us kids would have to buy them ourselves with money we earned through allowance and stuff. And I was really the only really big reader, so I was the only one to use my allowance for that. So a lot of books that I got, my collection first started out as a hand-me-down collection. I collected the books from my sister and my brother, and by the time they got to me, they were falling apart and pretty hard to read, because the pages were falling out, and it's really hard to read a book that's like that. And it actually hasn't been until recent years that I've been able to spend a lot of money on books, because during my tween and teen years, I made money playing music at restaurants and on the street and performances. I was an Irish musician, but a lot of that money would go towards quite a few other things, not just books. So I would still get a lot of my books from the library. I volunteered at my local library for 9 years of my life, and I would get books there. And when I would buy books, it would usually be books by authors I trusted, books I had already read that I knew I loved, or the next book in a series, and again, that would usually be special occasions, if I got a gift certificate or something like that. So it was pretty rare, but now that I have my own income, I choose to spend the majority of my money on books when I can, because books are a passion in my life. They always have been. I think you all guys all understand that. Before starting on this series, I reviewed my collection, and I found out that I have 1,247 books in total, which surprised even me, but it's pretty awesome. I've read a little less than half of them, and well over half of them are books that are either used, they were given to me by friends, by publishers, I got at book fairs that were kind of free, or I bought them on sale, because I'm very good about watching places like Barnes & Noble, Powell's, Book Depository, all those places for sales, and then I will go buy books en masse, and I will save up for these hauls, so they're in my budget. But one of the reasons I've stopped getting books from the library is one, having worked there for 9 years, I know where a lot of those books have been, and I'm not a germaphobe, but I want my books to be clean. I don't think that's unreasonable. So I tend not to get a lot of books from the library because a lot of them are dirty, and libraries can only clean them so well. But the main reason is I'm a reviewer on both my blog and BookTube. I review a lot of books. People come to me, friends and followers, asking me about books, and having worked at a bookstore for a long time, I also have parents coming to me asking me, recommendations for their kids and stuff. So I review. I have people who depend on me to, they want to know my opinion because they trust me as a source for good books or bad books. And as a reviewer, in order to get a good strong following, a lot of times I've got to read books as soon as they come out, so I can ride the hype, so my reviews can be relevant. And people come read them and stuff because they've just recently heard about this book. So I gotta have that book pretty much as soon as it comes out. Libraries are extremely good about getting books in, at least mine is. From what I understand, most libraries are not the greatest about maintaining their collections. The system that I use is extremely good about that. I worked with the YA department, and they were extremely good about updating their department and keeping their collections very up to date. However, libraries also do take a long time to get books in because there's a process that you have to go through before they'll accept a book into their system. There's budgeting to consider. There's, is this book something we actually want to carry? It's not just enough that one patron wants that book to be carried. So it takes a long time for books to be brought into the collection. And by the time the library will get the book into the collection and I'm able to pick it up, the wave of immediate interest in that book has died down, and so my review is probably still relevant, but it's not going to get the attention that it could have, and then, I don't get as much hype as a blogger or as a reviewer, and then I don't get as many people, coming to me for opinions. So libraries they're not a fast enough source, so I gotta buy the books so I can be on top of it, and so my blog can be relevant and current for people who are following. And that's just, courtesy for my followers. They depend on me to give them opinions on new books and stuff, and I want to be able to do that. The second reason that I buy books versus, borrowing them from libraries and friends and stuff is the book world, the publishing world. It is an industry, it is a business, and businesses are run on money. So if a new book is released, let's use the one behind me. It's not new anymore, but Crimson Bound. Crimson Bound is released. They print off a certain number when they first release it. But only a few of them sell. It doesn't, not many people are buying this book. Well, then what happens is when they release a second editions, that because it didn't do very well in its first run, they didn't meet the quota that they wanted to, the second printing is going to be either smaller or it's not going to happen at all. And then books become out of print, and then they're really hard to find, or they become really, really expensive, because with some books there still might be enough of a demand for them that the used industry will charge, a fairly high price, but there isn't a big enough demand that the publisher is going to keep the title or the author. So then that's when you see used books that are a ridiculous amount of money, because there's a demand, and someone out there will pay that much, but there's not a high enough demand that the publisher is going to continue publishing them. So you have to buy new books in order for the publisher to continue printing them, and for that publisher to keep that author, and for that author to continue writing. That is how it works. I do buy a lot of used books, as well as new, because a lot of people don't realize, but the two industries are dependent on each other. You cannot have a used book unless it was new ones. Someone, in order for a used book to exist, someone has to have bought it new, and then resold it, and then it's used. And a lot of times, I will buy a new book or used, and I'll read it, and I like it, but it wasn't great, or maybe I just hated it. I'll then go sell it to a used bookstore like Powell's, and I will get credit to get more books there. And normally when I go there, I buy only used books because I get discounts for the new ones better at other places. So not only have I given a previously new book to a used bookstore that can now be sold as a used book, probably for a discounted price for someone else to enjoy, I'm buying more used books as well, and that keeps the industry going. So that is the other reason that I buy books versus borrowing them, is because you have to buy new books in order to keep books published and the industry going, and you have to buy new books in order for used books to exist, and then you have to buy used books in order for them to get new stock in it and stuff. But one of the main reasons I collect books is because it's a passion of mine. I love collecting books. My biggest dream as a kid, even before I could personally read, my parents were still reading to me, was to have a library. I don't know how many readers out there, the main reason they love the Beauty and the Beast is because of the library. I mean, yeah, it's a great story and stuff, but come on, guys, the library. That's why we like that one so much. And one of my biggest dreams, was to have my own personal private library, because like a lot of people in this world, I do suffer from pretty severe anxiety. And I need a break from the world. I need a break from reality. And one of the ways I do that is I have my library, and it's full of wonderful stories and all these worlds and things. But not only that, it's full of books that I've spent hours, years, days, just so much time scouring different bookstores trying to find them. And I can look at those books, and I can remember where I bought them, who was with me when I bought them, what happened that day. And if I've read them, not only do I have those memories, but then I remember where I was when I read it, and who I was with when I read it, and who have I discussed this book with. And they accumulate all these memories. And I guess that is also another reason I love buying new books, is because while there is a story behind when I got the new book is kind of like a blank journal. It's new. No one else has really touched it. No one else has accumulated their memories on it. So I get to start from scratch, build my own memories on it. At the same time, it's really fun to get used books, and you'll find something inside them, hopefully not damaging to the book, that hints at old memories that came with it. And that's kind of fun, too. Like, sometimes I'll find forgotten bookmarks. Those can sometimes be a little scary, depending on what they used as a bookmark, but it's still kind of fun. But just collecting books, scouring used and new bookstores and garage sales, and just wherever you go to find books is an adventure. It's so much fun. It's very relaxing to me. And browsing libraries is fun, but it's not the same. You're going to have to return that book eventually, and it's just not the same. So I find the process very exciting and also very calming. And then my collection, my library, it used to be my brother's room, and I took it over when he moved out. It's wall-to-wall shelves, and I poured so much time in planning into that room, specifically designed as a sanctuary from stress. And I find nothing more relaxing than after a long day to go in there and sit down with my hedgehog and just stare at all the gorgeous, beautifully organized books, and remembering the memories that come with all of them, and looking forward to the ones that I haven't read yet, that don't yet have more memories attached to them. I can't wait. It's very exciting. And I know it's not just me. My friends have told me so many times how relaxing and wonderful and inspiring my collection is. I host reading days on a pretty regular basis with them, and we always use my library because they said it sets the mood to read. They love scouring my shelves and finding new titles that they then write down, and then they get to experience hunting that title down for themselves and building memories and getting their own edition of it. And it's just it's a wonderful thing. It's wonderful. And I was not like this because of BookTube. I've always been like this, and I do believe that the majority of people on BookTube have always been like this. It's just now BookTube has created this community where people get to share this passion with each other. They get to gush about their collections and about new titles that they've acquired and talk about where they got the titles and why they got them. They get to share their love for pretty books or beat up books, whichever you like better. And it's very new, I think, for us book people, especially on social media, to have this kind of community. And I love it because I always considered my book craziness to be kind of me. There weren't many people I met who were like that. And it felt a little bit isolating, but now, we've got this huge community who is not afraid to show off all of their books and just love their books and love on their books and share the love for books with other book people. And I don't think that's shallow whatsoever. Book collecting is a wonderful thing, and everyone does it for different reasons, and everyone loves different kinds of book collections. Some of my friends love books that are beat up and torn up and, falling apart. They love that. I personally don't. And there's nothing wrong with that. It changes from person to person. And if some people want to use libraries more or they can't afford to buy lots of books, that's fine, guys. That's up to the individual. Everyone's lives are different. Everyone chooses to spend their money differently. And there's nothing wrong with it, and it's not shallow to choose to spend all your money on books or to want certain editions, or to have multiple copies. I personally am not a multiple copy buyer, not in general. There's something about it. It destroys the symmetry of my library to have multiple copies of a book. But there are some exceptions that I make. And I brought up the primest example. Jane Eyre is one of my favorite classics because of the ambiance and the characters. It's a great story. So I have multiple copies of it. This is what I call my principal copy. This was the first one I ever bought. Barnes & Noble classic. Great book. Wonderful. This one is my principal copy, as I said. I usually keep it at home. It sits in my library, and I generally read this one the most. But this book is really big and heavy, and I'm not an e-reader person, so it's really hard to carry this book around. So I bought a second copy, and it's this one. It's just this little one. It fits in my purse or my pocket. I can carry this wherever I go. It's always with me. And it's just cute and wonderful, and I love it. This, by the way, this is the Collector's Library Classics. They do tons of classics. These are great little books. They're very, very cheap. They're unabridged. You should check them out. They're great. I have almost all their books. And then finally, I have a third copy, and it's this gorgeous, gorgeous paperback one that I bought because it's gorgeous. It's actually, as far as paperbacks go, it's really, soft and wonderful. And I keep this one in my room because it matches my decor, and also it's pretty, and I just love picking it up and reading it. And I will get more into the argument of loving pretty books and artwork is shallow. It's the contents that matter, not the way they look, in one of my other videos when I will have my artistic friend on. And in that I will also discuss how I actually really like this thing where they're reprinting a bunch of the classics and making them pretty covers. For this video, that is about all I wanted to say, and I would love you guys to share with me, why do you collect books, and, what's your opinion on this stuff? Like I said, this is not a personal attack against anyone. This is my opinion. And I think it's the opinion of a lot of people who may be a little hesitant to voice it because they don't want to sound like they're attacking anyone, and you know, I understand. But again, this is not a personal attack. And I will see you guys with the next part, which I'm not sure what that one will be addressing. But I will let you know when it's up, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you around. Bye.